Hi, Roach Growth listeners. Today I have Ian. He co-founded Equity Warehouse. Thank you, Ian, for being here today. You there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here. Oh yeah. My
Oh, there you
pleasure.
go. All right. Just want to make sure. Sometimes you get that little slowdown right when it starts off, but uh, yeah. So Ian, flipping business now does commercial buying and holding. I think you're probably. Because I think I've had people for big developments, but on the commercial space, because you guys do a lot of like storage containers and things like that, right?
Yeah,
Warehouses.
we do. Yeah, we do a good bit of self-storage. I mean, we're opportunistic investors. Like in the end, like if we find the right deal, we're gonna do it. We spend a lot of time in the storage space. We spend a lot of time in like the industrial contractor warehouse type space. But in the end, like, dude, we have Airbnbs, we have single family real estate. We're not opposed to doing a flip. We just wholesaled a single family house the other day because it landed on our lap. Like we're not shy. You know what I mean?
What's your and we'll get into your journey. Curious, what's your take on? And right now we're this interview's October 2024. What's your take on Airbnb? Are you still pushing forward on those ones, or are you trying to get rid of those, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so the Airbnbs we have are in a local town to us just outside of Philadelphia. There's really no hotels out here. How it started was we were still living in Maryland. We would come back and visit our family, and my business partner had never had anywhere to stay with him and his wife and three kids. And that led us down this road of trying to find an Airbnb. So our Airbnbs are very like specific to an area that there's not a lot of hotel service. It's not a destination area. It's a lot of family visit. It's a lot of work people that are coming through working at some of the big industries that are near us. So we do pretty well with it, and it's not like a high turnover vacation area. It is a hospitality business. We don't have any desire to expand to go buy stuff at the Jersey Shore or anywhere in like a destination type location at this point because there is a lot of hospitality that comes with it. Uh, but I mean, look, Airbnbs are a great way to get in the game and buy a house that you can buy a liability that you want for your family to use in a vacation location and turn into an asset. So I think there's benefits of that all in all. So
How far out do you guys go from where do you live? Like, what's the farthest investment you guys have? Is it a couple hours? Is it across the
oh
U.S.
no,
or?
no, it's a couple thousand miles away. We're up here just outside of Philadelphia, and Baltimore, and our furthest one is just outside of Houston, Texas, a
Oh,
little town called Livingston, Texas. We have a self storage facility out there, but that's why we ended up in self storage, right? Like we were buying a lot of rental properties in Baltimore, and Baltimore, take well, it is literally politics. Like there was a lot of crap going on during COVID that didn't allow us to be a good landlord and execute. There was a lot of restrictions from a consumer protection law. So we started looking for other assets that would allow us to diversify outside of the Baltimore metro market and allow us to grow. So that's how we wound up with stuff. We have stuff in Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, and Ohio, all storage facilities because it's an asset class that lends favorably to operating outside of your local jurisdictional area.
nice. Um, yeah, it's always intriguing with the storage containers. I mean, knows people in that business, and seems like it'd be good money. All right, well, let's rewind. I mean, growing up, young Ian, did he have plans of having this real estate portfolio, or what was his aspiration? I guess.
No, I mean, I always loved Monopoly, always a fun game. Kind of dabbled in entrepreneurial and some, landscape businesses and some other things. I wasn't like mature enough to be successful at that point in my life. Um, and then my dad had gotten real sick, passed away, and I said, I need some sort of change. And we were always volunteering at the local firehouse. And a couple of my buddies got hired down in Baltimore City. And I said, dude, that seems like a great career path for me. It'll straighten my ass up. I wasn't military bound, but I knew I needed some sort of structure in my life. And going to be a fireman for the city of Baltimore was awesome. And I moved down there. And that's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a big city career fireman. I wanted to go to fires. I wanted to help people. And we had the opportunity to do that. If you ever watched The Wire, that's where we worked. I was legitimately living my dream as a career fireman. So
How many years were you in the fire department or fire?
I was there just short of 15 years. Real estate allowed us to leave. Um, but the city really forced our hand to get involved in real estate is really what happened and allowed us to ultimately leave early.
How so?
So we got hired in 07, 08. My business partner went down in 07. I went down in 08. And by the end of 2009, we were, the global financial crisis happens, right? Like we all sacrificed money in exchange for security. And they started, company closures. They started furloughing us. They started threatening layoffs. They came in one day and said, "Hey, you know that 20-year pension you got? Just kidding. It's actually 25 years now. Go fight us in court." California pension systems are going bankrupt. Detroit's going bankrupt. Private industries are going bankrupt from a pension standpoint, and we don't pay Social Security. And I said, I need to do something. Like my initial goal was just to buy a couple rental properties that were worth $1 million and paid off after my 30-year career. And I would have been happier than anything, and um, really they just kept forcing the hand. There was no overtime. I was like, oh, how can I make extra money? How can I protect my family? God forbid something happens to me. I kept looking at all these things and I was like, well, there's no promotional opportunity. There's no overtime. They're threatening to lay us off. I got to do something. How can I make money while I'm asleep at work? And I kept coming back to real estate. I had no clue why, but I just knew it seemed like what I wanted to do. I mean, my credit score was horrible. I had a bunch of debt, but I just knew if I could do something in real estate, I'd be fine. And it was something that, God forbid, I got killed at work or incapacitated. My wife could enjoy the cash flow while she's sorting out, God forbid, something happened to me, right? And then she could go sell those assets off and get the money if she decides she doesn't want them anymore, right? Like there was a lot of benefits for us getting involved. And like I said, the city kind of forced our hand at the time that we got hired with the no overtime, the company closures, messing with our pension system, all these other things. It's like, hey, like, let's go do this and let's secure our own futures.
So what was your first investment?
My first investment was 2012. I bought, now I'll just paint the little picture here for you guys. I had like a 570 credit score. I had $15,000 in the bank. We worked 2 10-hour days, 2 14-hour nights. On my 2 night works, during the day, I would go landscape. And then on my 4 days off, I would go landscape. I was doing anything to hustle for a buck. And I had like no money to my name. And I ran into this guy. He kind of taught me the business, had a soft spot for first responders. And I bought a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house in the 4x4. Clever name because it's 4 streets by 4 streets. That's why it's called the 4x4 in East Baltimore. I paid $25,000 for it.
Oh,
I
wow.
read this book called the Section 8 Bible, and I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And I went in there and I renovated it myself. I can't say that I did everything right. I can't say that I pulled permits. I can't say that I kept track of every dollar I put into it. But I think I got it done for 25 to 35 grand. I was all into this thing for 50,000 bucks. And then at the end, I said, "Hey man, like I know you said you were going to help me out. Like I really want a Section 8 tenant." You said, "Sure, I got you." And the average rent in that area was 850 to 900 bucks. And when a Section 8 tenant came in, I got $1,250. And at the same time, I was still grinding out, making money, got my credit score fixed, and I picked up a loan. I refinanced that thing at like 3.125%. I think my monthly payment was 500 bucks and I was cash flowing almost $750 a month.
Mhm.
And it was better than any overtime shift. It was better than anything I could have done because I was making 750 bucks a month without even thinking about it.
Did you have a good experience with that Section 8 tenant?
I did. I kind of had like a competitive advantage, right? Because like we're dealing with like people of the street every single day, like every single run. I'm dealing with someone in their worst moment, right? Like I'm dealing with drama every single day at work in the fire department. We know the ins and outs of Baltimore City. So, some drama would happen or something would happen inside the house. I'd be like, yeah, okay, like not a big deal, and knew how to talk to the tenant to say, hey, like it's all okay. I was also willing to fix things because there was so much cash flow that I personally had a very good experience with it. And within 6 months, I bought my second house. And then from there, I bought 10 houses in almost 2 years and really started to secure our financial future. And we did all Section 8 tenants because we were getting above market rates compared to what the market was paying for cash tenants. So it was kind of a no-brainer. We had a sense of security with the program that would back us up if there was any issues. We were getting yearly inspections that we had to do. Yes, they cost money, but guess what? Like, it was, you're protecting your asset in the long run, and there was really good cash flow. So for us, knowing the system, Section 8 worked really, really well in Baltimore City and Baltimore County compared to other markets throughout the country.
Do you think, looking back on it, do you think there's anything that could have happened with that first property that would have made you stop buying more properties?
Yeah, there was some drama. There was some, I don't know about the first property per se. It was more when you started to get multiple tenants, and it was like, man, like, you get two good tenants and then your third tenant's a nightmare. And you're just like, oh my God, right? Like, I kind of lucked out on tenants 1 and 2. Tenant 1 was, he came from not directly from the city Section 8 program, but from like this other vendor called Catholic Charities, who had a very good program, or I'm sorry, Project Place. Very good experience. And then my second tenant, he came from a thing called Prisoners 8. Cleanest tenant, no demand. And I used to always say, Mr. Carroll, like, your house is so clean. He said, I spent 25 years in a 8x8 cell. I am so grateful that I had this property and I was able to turn my life around. Those two situations made me feel really good. My third tenant, I bought a bad house. It was in a bad area. I got a bad Section 8 tenant. It just was like, oh my God, dude, like, I don't know if I can do this. But then I quickly realized, like, location does matter when dealing in Section 8. Location, the vetting the tenant does matter. You have the right to vet the tenant. So luckily for me, the first 2 worked out. Third one was a little dicey. But after that, we figured out a process and went.
So when did you get to the point that you go, okay, well, I can't manage them myself? Because I'm assuming you got to, that point where you have other people that are kind of managing your properties, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so I built a portfolio of 10 properties. My business partner started wholesaling. We connected on a few deals, and then we started, we came together, joined forces, and started flipping a bunch of houses. When we were flipping houses, it was like, cool, we're making a bunch of cash, but like, we're not building any wealth. So we started buying rental properties, and we built almost 100 house portfolio in roughly 3 years' time. And I would say it was probably 20, 30 houses in, including my 10, that it was like, okay, we need a system here. Either we need to find someone to come in and manage it, or we need to start building back end procedures to allow us to manage it. And we self-managed all the way through and through because we're in construction, and, it just made sense for us to do it. And it worked out well for us. So what we did was we actually gave up what we loved the most, hired a project manager to come in and run our operation from the fixing side of things. That allowed me and Dan to then concentrate on the property management and build a system, build out AppFolio, build out all the other softwares that we need to execute. And then after we got to, it was right around 100 houses. We had bought a 76 unit apartment building. That's when we brought in Raquel, and now she runs our office, and she basically manages our portfolio and manages the apartment buildings and manages all of our residential tenants to allow us to execute at a high level. So I think most people see at 10 houses that they're like, hey man, there's an inflection point here. 20, 30 houses. Hey, I might need a full-time maintenance guy. 50 to 100. I need somebody in the office I can pay for someone in the office to allow me to execute. Because with scale, you're spending money, but it doesn't always mean you're making more money. So you need to be able to do it in a similar path. So when you're hiring, you're still growing. And as you're growing, you're still executing and making more money. So
you talked about when you first started, I guess, in the fire department, you were doing landscaping and everything like that. So it seems like your hours of operations were basically whenever you're awake. And I'm guessing with this bigger portfolio, you and your partner were probably working on the files whenever you're awake. When was the time? Was it when Raquel jumped in, or when was the time that you actually started putting boundaries on your time and actually having, I guess, protections for your weekends or protection for your evenings or whatever that might look like?
Yeah, that hasn't happened until recent. I mean, we've been in grind mode for a very long time, and I would say there was definitely like once we hired Ryan, like prior to that, we would run around and just pay people. We'd be like, hey, like, get us an invoice, we'll pay you. And we would run around the city dropping off checks. And then when Ryan came on board, you know, our project manager, who's now our operations head, he he was like, dude, we can't be doing this. Like, guys need to submit invoices. We need to pay them. And I'm not running around the city. He was very valued of his time. And we kind of came from a minimalist mindset. And, you know, as an employee, he came with an abundance mindset and said, hey, if they want to get paid, they're going to come and find us. They're going to follow our rules. So, you know, his mom had worked at, she's a vendor for Ryan Homes, and Ryan Homes always dictates. They're one of the big track home builders. They always dictate how their vendors get paid and how much they get paid. He's like, we need to take that mindset. And we really started to adopt that, you know, and he helped us grow to the point where it was like, cool, like, you're right. Submit an invoice on Wednesday. We'll process it on Thursday. Your check will be available on Friday. If you want direct deposit, you need to sign up for our payment software, and that's it. And we started to build off of that. And our free time, there was definitely free time at work, was a free time. Um, there for, you know, for a while when I would get home, you know, if I get home at 4 or 7, it didn't matter. Whatever time I got home till kid bedtime, no phone. And then we would do business after our kids went to bed. But yeah, it was every waking second. I mean, we were in growth mode early on. It was startup mode. We had to go, we had to grow, we had to put in the work, and we had to work harder than everybody else because we didn't have a lot of money, but we had work ethic and determination to get it done. And that's what we were willing to do when most people are like, yeah, let me just throw money at my problem. No, we kept going at it harder and harder and harder. So
What drives you, or what did drive you? I don't know.
what drives me and what still drives me today, what drove me is just like, you know, rough childhood, not being abundantly flush with cash, you know, just the idea of success, and success is more than just money. It's like you just kind of hit was like time freedom, being available for my kids. You know, early on, a lot of driver was retiring by the time we were 40, making sure our wives never had to work and that they could stay home and take care of our kids. You know, we're privileged enough to do that. We both happen to homeschool our kids, so that's an awesome experience for our wives and our families. What drives me more today is, again, my family. You know, I love being able to coach my daughters at softball and soccer and all the other kids' activities, and instilling like killer mentality and beliefs inside of not only my daughters but other people's children who are playing the kids' activities with me. But the other big driver, honestly, is our employees, right? Like, we have an employee base that, you know, some of us have trouble past, and we're all having success today. And seeing them being able to buy $500,000 houses and have 3 kids and support their family, whatever growth they want, it's more than just us now. It's our employees, it's our co-investors, it's our co-lenders, it's our vendors. It's the whole ecosystem that lives around Equity Warehouse is what motivates me today, because I know if I put our employees first, if I put our capital investors first, if I put the property first, the money will fall out in the end. And if we do the right thing, then it'll all work out. And then I know my family's taken care of, my business partner's family's taken care of, and everybody in that downline is really what matters the most to me and what I enjoy and really what drives us today.
You talked about with the when you're running around getting the invoices and kind of fighting for it, and then kind of had that shift in mindset of, hey, we have enough business that we can basically kind of lay the guidelines. Is that the same kind of mindset you have when you bring in your co-investors or your investors and all that kind of stuff into the properties, that, hey, this is what we're looking at, you want to jump in or not? Or how does that look like today, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, with our co-investors and co-lenders, they all kind of know what we do. And yeah, for the most part, it's like a set guideline, like, hey, guys, like, here's what we do, here's how we execute, right? Because if you start changing it up a billion different ways, it gets real confusing, real messy. Then you talk to one of our capital investors, and it's like, well, hey, that guy got this deal, I got that deal, and it's not it's not repeatable, right? Like the more repeatable we can make every aspect of this business, the more we can scale it, and like kind of going back to your question, like what drives us, what drives me is one day I'd love to have like a fully autonomous investing vehicle, right? Like we find a deal and we can just say, me and Dan approve it, or the deal committee approves it. And then it's like we have the capital raisers, we have the capital stack, we have the executors of the deal, and it goes right to operations, right? So, with that being said, it's the same thing on the capital raising side as we try to template it. They can all log in, they can jump on our investment platform and see the deals, right? With that being said, yeah, somebody comes with a seven-figure check and they want to work one-on-one with us, we'll have that discussion. And that might be different, but we're also in a one-on-one situation where they say, hey, I need to deploy $1 million. How would you do this? Well, hey, you could spread it across several of our deals, or we could do one $3 or $4 million deal and we just work together and we'll split it in a fair fashion, because guess what? I don't have to go out and raise all the capital. I don't have to go out and do all the hard work to figure that out. So, yeah, for the most part, it's templated, but for in the right situations, we'll have those deeper conversations and relationships that have been built over several different deals that allow us to have those conversations.
Your template and your structure that you're talking about, was that just kind of trial and error? Did you guys have a mentor or like someone that you followed, or
Yeah, dude, trial and error. A lot of what we do is trial and error. You talk about working around the clock. Like I'd be taking a run at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was a driver for a while. I'd always bring my phone with me, and I would say, okay, well, they're waiting for a medic unit. I'm looking at deals. How are people structuring them? I'm watching YouTube videos. I'm doing anything I can to try to understand it. I would look at Grant Cardone's deals, and I would look at the guy that I know's deal and figure out how are they structuring it? How are they making money? How does this whole thing work? I mean, literally, this thing, if you're willing to put the effort in, it will give you all the knowledge you need and use it for the right things. And so those long sleepless nights, we'd be stuck on fires for 8-9 hours. I'd be scrolling, when I'm not doing my job and we're waiting for whatever for investigation, scrolling deals, just seeing what's going on, just quick back of the napkin. Oh, this might work, this might not. When I have a clearer mind, let me go play with it. And just talking to other syndicators, talking to, listening to podcasts, whatever it is what I would do to get the info. And then the biggest test really was, hey guys, I have this deal and I'm raising money for it. Here's the terms. And if nobody rose their hand, we're like, shit. Like, well, we really screwed up here. And if people really started to raise their hand, we're like, okay, well, we're on to something. Did we give up too much? How do we tweak it for the next one? And we've really built ourselves like a little niche of how we set up our deals, and we go out and execute on them. And most of our capital investors know the day they come in what the setup is and how it's going to work, and we go from there. So,
what do you do? Being that you have like this big structure now, you and your partner, if you have those, I guess, down moments or frustration moments, I mean, is it the jog that you're talking about? Is it a workout? Is it just basically kind of, I mean, meditation? I mean, what does that look like when you're kind of trying to
yeah,
assess things?
yeah. I mean, when things are ugly or when things are good, how do you stay in it? My business partner, couple years back, he's like, hey, we should start lifting. And I'm like, dude, I don't know. I played hockey growing up, and I was like, I don't know, I don't want to get hurt. So whatever, we hired a trainer, and then we started powerlifting, and he got real into it, wound up setting some records at for the state of Maryland in the 3 big lifts, which is awesome, right? But that's the outlet, is lifting. What I've been doing as of recent, I've gotten back into it, is journaling and just writing down our goals. And every statement is, I want money to abundantly flow to us. I want my coworkers to feel safe. I want, whatever it is. And I'll tell you what, it works. Like these are the outlets. This is where you get your thoughts out. Going to the gym is where you get your thoughts out. Going for a walk with your family is where you clear your mind and you get your thoughts out, and that's the biggest therapy. The other big thing is my business partner and I, Dan, he still lives in Maryland. He's getting ready to move back. So we've kind of remotely worked for the last 2 years. I'd say probably 3 to 5 times a week, every night around 8:30 when our kids go to bed. We'll call and just talk to each other and just bullshit about life. We'll bullshit about business. We'll come up with new ideas. We'll have conversations. Yes, we work, during the workday, we're more like coworkers. And at night, we're more like business partners and friends. And we work through those situations. And having those outlets, knowing what it is, like last night, it was, hey, man, I'm going to light a fire and smoke a cigar and hang out with my kids and just hang out. Like that was cool. That was chill. I needed that yesterday. And it makes you refreshed for today, the day before we're recording this. Taxes are due tomorrow and have to swallow that pill. But you know what? It's what we had to do to get our minds right,
The partnership that you and Dan, right? That's your
Yep.
partner?
Yep.
You and Dan have, it seems like it's pretty cohesive. Is there any kind of nuggets that you could give to people that are thinking about forming a partnership, or I guess have a partnership right now too?
Yeah, so we did it all wrong. We were friends growing up. I've known his wife since I was like this big. He's known my wife since she's been that big, and our families are all intertwined prior to getting into business. We really did it all on a handshake. We haven't changed our operating agreement since the day we founded our company. But I will say the biggest thing, the reason we are successful is because I would suggest that everybody takes a DISC personality test. And I'm a high D and a high I. I'm a decision maker, but I'm also a visionary. I'm the talker. I'm the one that likes going out and doing these things. Dan would never in a million years do this. But what is he? He's a D and he's an S. An S is a supportive type person. So we work great for each other because Dan holds me back in a good way and says, yo, idiot, like we can't pay our bills. Like, why are you trying to buy more properties? Or, hey, like, we just fucked up on that deal. Like, why are we doing this deal again? Right? Like, he grounds me. In the same sense, I'm like, yo, Dan, we need to buy more. Like, I know maybe this deal's not going right, but like, we need to find another deal. And he's like, no, we don't. And I'm like, well, yeah, we do. Like, because we need to continue to grow. Because if we put more money in the bank, then we can resolve other problems. And I really push him outside of his comfort level because he'd probably still be doing his first house today. And he grounds me because otherwise I would have been bankrupt several years ago and I would not be sitting here talking to you today. So our personalities are completely opposite. However, we have the same common goal. And I think that's what brings us together and allows us to be successful. And I think every partnership needs to look at that and figure out where your strengths, where your weaknesses are, what your common goals are, how you're trying to execute. And if you can work through that, then you can work through anything and have a really successful partnership.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I think that's the synergies. There are things. So, I mean, it sounds like this cohesiveness has kind of just meshed because you guys have grown up together. Is there anything you've learned over the time that, like, the paperwork hasn't changed, but anything else you've I guess learned in that time frame?
Yeah, I mean, you learn a lot about people's, they might not tell you like their personal life, but like how they care for money, how they treat money, what their risk aversions are.
Mm.
You know, I'm the type of person to pour every single dollar we have back into our company. And Dan's like, well, no, that's my money and I need a nest egg. Well, guess what? Recently, I just had a learning lesson of like, why you don't pour every single dollar back in, and you should have a nest egg, right? Like, so you learn a lot of these things, and it's really a teaching moment at any given time. And no one person is right? Like we both come from the fire department. We both come from like a mentality of there needs to be a leader. However, inside of our company, there I don't want to say there isn't a leader, but there isn't like this is the boss and this is the only boss. There is a cohesiveness not only with me and Dan, but our employees too. Like Ryan, who runs our operation, he'll be like, hey, idiots, like, what are we doing here? Like, because his job could be on the line. And he's like, hey, like, can we fix this? Why don't we do it like this? And he'll call us out. And while we welcome him calling us out, in the end, it does become me and Dan's decision to cut a property loose or cut an employee loose. And then he'll go out and execute on that. And I think that's what's really cool is like, everybody, like, I don't know however many other guests you've had on your podcast, but I've had some on mine where it's like company culture this and blah 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 that. Like you can't force some of this stuff, dude. Like it just comes from the top. Like you need to go out and just execute at a high level, and if you execute at a high level, people will follow you and be willing to do that. And I do believe that if I didn't continue to execute at a high level from a business partner standpoint, that Dan would not continue to execute at a high level from a business partner standpoint, and it would become just a mess. And people don't want to talk about that, and we do talk about that. And it's like Dan does all the books, but somehow I talk to the accountant because he's not comfortable doing that. And you got to know where you need to pick up your business partner to be able to push them over the line, right? And the same way that I'm like, I want to go buy everything, Dan's like, yo, chill. And Ryan's like, hey, chill. Like I can only do so much. And that's what's cool is that like you have the checks and balances with inside your own company, and not everybody's like, just go, charge, let's go. Because we've been in partnerships where me and capital partner, somebody else has like joined up with me and Dan, and the two of us are same. And Dan's like, this is a mess, don't do it. And we went down the road and it wound up being a mess, right? So it's like just knowing how everything works together synergistically. And once you realize that it's like, hey man, this all is working, it's like it's a really cool experience. I'm not doing a good job articulating it, but I promise you, when you see it inside your business, you're like, holy crap, this is the coolest thing ever that we created.
Well, I appreciate so much, Ian, for being on the Road to Growth podcast. If people are listening, they're looking to, and we didn't even talk about, I think you do some coaching, get the podcast. I mean, they're looking to kind of stay in tune of what you're doing. What's the best way of them kind of staying in contact?
Yeah, just check out Equity Warehouse on all the social sites or equitywarehouse.com. You can see how we co-invest and co-lend with our friends and family. But if you want to stay in tune with what we're going on, I'm the most active on Instagram under Equity Warehouse. I got challenged by a buddy of mine, Stratton Brown, up in Fresno, and he's doing $1 million wholesale challenge. I said, oh yeah, I'll one up you. I'm going to do a $50 million commercial real estate challenge. So I'm trying to buy $50 million of commercial real estate by the year's end. And I started like July 1st. We're close. We're at like 40 million bucks. But we'll see. So I've been documenting that inside of CRE-syndicate.com and just show people what we got going on and, what it takes to underwrite deals and get deals across the finish line and ultimately execute on them. Because I do think if you're doing single family real estate, you should check out commercial real estate because the numbers are bigger, better, and badder. And real wealth creation happens there.
All right, I'm going to finish this one last question. I know you already talked about it. If we talked in 5 years, I mean, hopefully you'll have this kind of self-running business that kind of everything is works for itself, I guess. Besides that, anything else that you foresee in your business, your life, in real estate, that if we're talking, it'd be kind of newer to the game, I guess?
Yeah, in 5 years, if we still have all of our employees, I think that's our existing employees today, and I'm sure we might add some few between now and then, but like our core group of employees now, if they're still with us 5 years from now, that'd be like a massive vote of confidence. I think that'd be really, really cool. Not only with that, obviously just health in general, right? 5 years, not that I'm that old, but I am in the 40s now. So, 5 years from now, hopefully health is still good and that the girls and my wife are still loving their life and enjoying their time. That's really the most important thing to me. And we're all creating new experiences, right? Like it's easy to sit here and say 5 years from now, I want $500 million of real estate, or I can see myself on track to be in $1 billion of real estate. That's cool, but none of it matters if you don't have your time freedom. And as long as we have our time freedom, five years from now, we're still successful. And I hope that's what comes to fruition.
Thanks, Ian, so much for being here. Hopefully, everyone got some nuggets. Go in the show notes. Go find Ian, and please subscribe. Please share. And again, go find Ian. Bye, everyone.